Okay. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And let's say our blessing, and then I'll give you an update here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Hello to Etta and Marjorie and Cheryl and Ilana and Linda. Nice to see you all, and Liz. Nice to see you, and Janine. Nice to have you. So first of all, I have to say, and Selena Wertrich, who is in Israel, and she and I had the pleasure of going to a women's class on Monday together in Yerushalayim. And I don't know, there were several hundred women there, and they are that many women every single week. And so we had a great time being able to meet up and learn together for some time in the morning. So anytime you want to come, we can do that together. It's really fun. So it was very nice. So that was this week. The other thing that I had this week is somebody in our community is very generously coordinating making soup for the wives and families of the soldiers who are away. Just something midweek, because if people are being invited for Shabbat meals, which is great, but you just the kids, bedtime, dinner, everything on your own. It's just really not easy. So they arranged just for women to just get soup, just have a soup night. So different women made soup, and we did, and we took it over to this woman who happens to live just down the street from us. We had never met her before. She only speaks Hebrew. Her husband is away, and she has, I don't know, 3 or 4 kids, little kids, and she was just, you would have thought I gave her diamonds. She was just like, thank you so much for this treat. You're like, the word is like to spoil, like you're spoiling, you spoiled me with this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's just, everybody is just continuing to do little things. And, you have a celery and carrots and dried peas, and it turns into like you're spoiling me for you're giving me such a treat. So it's really great to be able to be part of it. And she was so shocked. She grew up here in Mitzvah Yericho, and she was like, I haven't seen you before. Like, where'd you come from? So I said, Colorado. She goes, I don't even know where that is. I said, it's like in the middle of the United States. She goes, like, you moved all the way here. I can't believe it. So I think it even meant more to her, because it's like, who are these people? Like, these people coming from America, from the middle of the country, like dropping into Mitzvah Yericho. So it was very nice. It was very rewarding. And her appreciation, of course, just made us feel really good. But people just continuing to do all sorts of nice things for people. So it's great. So what we are going to talk about today is, we are not going to really talk about the parsha, which is Parsha Tetzaveh. Parsha Tetzaveh focuses on the clothing for the Kohanim. And it's beautiful. The clothing is beautiful, and it is all filled with interesting meaning and symbolism and all of that. And it's beautiful. However, we have a special opportunity to talk about something that's unique, which is that this year is a leap year on the Jewish calendar, which means that we have an extra month. So on the English calendar, we have an extra day. There's February 29th. But in the Hebrew calendar, it's not just a extra day, it's a whole extra month. And I don't know the exact pattern. It's not like every 4 years. So we're not going to really talk about the pattern, but it's 7 times in 19 years, there are leap years. So 7 times during a 19-year period, it's a leap year, and there is a whole extra month. This is designed specifically to adjust the calendar so that Pesach stays in the springtime, because the Torah specifically says that Pesach needs to be B'chodesh Aviv, in the spring month, because it talks about spring and newness and everything that is, you would link to the idea of redemption and a new beginning and the birth of the Jewish people leaving Egypt. So in order to have Pesach be in the spring, we have a leap month, and we add an extra month in order to keep the calendar focused. Otherwise, if we didn't, we would end up like the Muslim calendar, where Ramadan moves around the calendar because of the discrepancies. And we don't have just a lunar calendar. And we obviously aren't on the solar calendar system. We don't have January, February, March, April, May. We have a lunar calendar that is also meshed in some way with the solar calendar. So on one level, that's just the practical reality of how Jewish life, the Jewish calendar works, to be talked about in many interesting ways. But what I want to focus on is the month that is the extra month and what the spiritual opportunity is for the month, as well as for this very week. Because beginning tomorrow night, on Thursday night, is the beginning of Purim Katan, which means little Purim. And on Shabbos day is going to be Purim, Shushan Purim Katan. So we are having Purim, but nobody, I think, is putting on a costume. You don't even have to eat a hamantashen, hear a Megillah, give tzedakah. There are no mitzvot associated with it at all, and yet it is a holiday. So we're going to talk about what is the holiday, why is it called Purim Katan, which means little Purim, and what is this about even having this holiday in this extra month? So first of all, just a basic question, which is, our statement we say first, is after Adar, after Purim, it'll be 4 weeks until we get to Pesach. Okay, so then Pesach is the beginning of the Jewish calendar according to the way it's counted in the Torah. Okay, so it's not Rosh Hashanah, it's the first month that's listed is Nisan, and that's the month of the Exodus. So you would think that Adar 2 is the additional Adar, because you'd expect it to be at the end, you'd have an extra Adar, and then you go into Nisan. But it's not like that. This Adar is the extra Adar, and the second Adar is the real Adar. That's when we will celebrate Purim, is during the real Adar. So number one, it's kind of out of order. And the second idea is, the second question to ask is, why is it Adar? It could have been that the previous month, which was the month of Shvat, which is when we had Tu B'Shvat, why don't we just have 2 Shvats? Have 2 Shvats and then have Adar and then go into Nisan. So there's something about why we would want to have the additional month be the month of Adar. And it has to do with Purim. And it has to do with the main idea of Purim, which, as we know, is the overturning of Haman's decree to annihilate the Jewish people, which when you were growing up, didn't you think that was like the most unlikely thing that anybody would have as a decree, to wipe out every man, woman, and child who was Jewish? And we have seen, sadly and unfortunately, that it happened in just previous to my lifetime ago. And here we are again with, Hamas and all these things, like very boldly, clearly, proudly, blatantly, we want to annihilate every man, woman, and child who is Jewish, period. So if there was ever a time in the recent past when this holiday and the spiritual energy and potential of a holiday should be meaningful and is meaningful to us, this is it. So that's what we want to focus on, is what is this month of Adar? What is it about Purim? What is it about Purim Katan? Okay, so here we go. We're going to kind of dive in here. Okay, so again, Purim Katan starts Thursday night. It's on Friday. And then Shushan Purim Katan is on Saturday, on Shabbos day. And there's nothing you need to do for it except look at your calendar and see that that's the day. But we're going to talk about an internal state of being and focus to have for Purim Katan, as well as for both months of Adar. So what, as a child, do we remember doing? Is, in addition to dressing up in costumes on Purim, when we read the Megillah, what's the thing that the kids love to do and that you're supposed to do? Shake the groggers. And why do we do that? It's to drown out the name of Haman. It is to wipe it out. That's why we do it. We're trying to wipe out Haman's name because we're trying to erase it. So how do you erase a name? So some people have the custom to write Haman's name on the bottom of their shoes and then to stamp them real loud to kind of like rub out his name, like literally rub him out. So I think people will be writing some other things on the bottoms of their shoes this year, but it's the same idea because the Torah says that we're going to, and this is in actually parsha Bishalach, after the Jewish people crossed the sea, after the exodus from Egypt, they are attacked by the Amalekites. The Amalekites, Haman was descended from the Amalekites, from the king of Amalek, whose name was King Agag, and Haman is the Agagi. Okay, that's good to know. The Bcharin Shul is having a Purim Katan dance party. Okay, so it's on page 393, the end of Parsha Bishalach, verse 14. This is chapter 17, verse 14. Hashem said to Moses, write this as a remembrance in the book and recite it in the ears of Yehoshua. So keep that in mind, Yehoshua. And recite it in the ears of Yehoshua that I shall surely erase the memory of Amalek from under the heavens. Okay, Moses built an altar and called it Hashem is my miracle. And he said, for the hand is on the throne of God. Hashem maintains a war against Amalek from generation to generation. And the word for to erase is, I shall surely erase, is double language. And the Hebrew is ki macho emche. I will surely erase him. And it's very interesting that God says to Moshe, write this as a remembrance in the book and recite it in the ears of Joshua. Now that's interesting. Why is he telling him to say it in the ears of Yehoshua? This is at the very beginning of the 40 years. This is when, why tell Yehoshua? Nobody had said, no decision had been made that Yehoshua was going to take over the leadership of the Jewish peoples. And that's not decided until the book of Devarim, until right before Moshe dies. And this is 40 years earlier. And God is saying, whisper this in, tell this to Yehoshua. So we're going to find out the significance of this. So who was it who fought the battle against the Amalekites? This battle here says this battle was fought by Joshua. So if you turn back a page, page 391, verse 8, it says, Amalek came and battled Israel in Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, choose people for us and go do battle with Amalek. Tomorrow I'll stand on top of the hill, etc., etc. Verse 10, Joshua did as Moses said, and he is the one who fights. And then you go down to verse 13, Joshua weakened Amalek and its people with the sword's blade. And then it makes a little bit of sense why God would be saying, tell this to Joshua, because Joshua was the one who led the battle against Amalek. So the question is, why was Joshua the one to lead the battle? We haven't really heard about him at all. Why wasn't it like Nachshon ben Aminadav, the one who went into the sea and then it split? Why wasn't it Aaron? Why wasn't it, Caleb? Why was it Joshua? Okay, so this is Yehoshua. Joshua was the one who was Moses's servant. He was always there, like helping him. And Moshe picks him to be the one to fight against Amalek. As we know, when Joshua is going to be the one who's going to lead the settling of the land of Israel, starting outside my window in Jericho. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, and the walls came tumbling down. What is it about Joshua that was especially effective against the Amalekites, against Amalek, and effective then against the energy of Haman? Okay, the energy of Haman. Joshua is usually referred to as, and this might sound familiar to you, Yehoshua bin Nun. Have anybody heard that? Yehoshua bin Nun. He's almost always called Yehoshua bin Nun. So that's kind of interesting. Most people aren't called that, their name plus the name of their father, except when they're being introduced. Like Moshe is not usually called Moshe ben Amram, and Aaron isn't called Aharon ben Amram. They're not, they're just called Moshe and Aaron. But Yehoshua is usually called Yehoshua bin Nun. Nun happens to be a word that is interesting. In Aramaic, and it's gotten turned into being connected with the Hebrew as well, the word nun means fish. Okay, it means fish. Is somebody asking me a question? Did I hear something? Okay. Yes, okay. Sorry. Nun means fish. So in other words, you could say that Yehoshua is the son of the fish. He's like something fishy about him. But we're talking about Yehoshua ben Nun as absolutely a street in Yerushalayim. And it's not just Yehoshua, it's Yehoshua ben Nun. And he's referred to throughout Tanakh as Yehoshua ben Nun. So Nun, this fish, says, this is very interesting. As you know, the astrological signs are all connected to Jewish life, that they started with that. They're based on a lunar calendar and they're ours. And the astrological sign for the month of Adar is Pisces. What is Pisces? A fish, okay? A fish. It says, who better to be the one to fight against Amalek? And now when we say Amalek, you can just kind of connect Amalek, Haman, all that destructive energy. Who's the one who should fight against that? It says it's the one who has the name of the astrological sign for the month of Adar, which is when Haman, the Amalekite, is wiped out. So this energy that we have now is like we're kind of focusing on Joshua as the first person who fought against Amalek, the person who carries the sign of Pisces, which is the energy of Adar. So it's like you're saying, it's like Joshua energy is in the month of Adar fighting Amalek. But it also means that this is like right this very moment, as we are sitting here, we're in like Yehoshua's energy. We're in Joshua's energy of fighting Amalek, of diminishing and wiping out Haman, wiping out that negative force. Part 2. Joshua, in his relationship to Moshe, was called the moon. It says Moshe was the sun and Joshua was called the moon. What's the role of the moon? This is the role of the moon is to reflect the light of the sun. It doesn't have its own light. It reflects the light of the sun. It says Yehoshua, Joshua was a reflection of the greatness of Moshe. But a moon is smaller than the sun, right? Because we don't have the same amount of light at night as we do during the day. If the moon was physically bigger, it would be able to reflect as much light as the sun. It would be equal. It would be equal. Okay. So Yehoshua is called the moon. He's called the Katan. He's called like the little one. Okay. Yehoshua is like the little one. I'm hearing a voice, and I'm not sure I can't tell if somebody's trying to say something to me or not. Okay. I don't know what it is. Okay. If somebody's trying to say something, speak up. Yes, Marsha.
I was just going to say they were to wipe out Amalek and not leave even an animal or anyone alive. And they didn't do it. Was that Saul?
That was King Saul. That was not Joshua. That was King Saul. That was King Saul.
That was, but later. Joshua, was he ordered to wipe out anybody? No, not the Philistines in Gaza.
That's different. That's different. That'll take us in a different direction. But yes, yes, that was for conquering the land of Israel. This attack of the Amalekites was in the desert, right, while the Jewish people weren't in the land of Israel yet. They were on their way to Mount Sinai to get the Torah. So this was a different time. This was to do the battle there. This was not to wipe them out. And it says specifically that he weakened them, but he was not derelict in his duty. He did what he was supposed to do. And at that time, it was only to weaken them. And that's why the command, once we came into the land of Israel, at that point, then it becomes a command. Once there's a king and once we're settled in the land of Israel, then it becomes an obligation to wipe out Amalek. And that's not done until King David. So King David is the one who takes care of that, which is why then King Solomon, following him, is the one who's able to be b'shalem, to be at peace, and to build the Beit HaMikdash, to build the Holy Temple. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and
Okay.
Sorry, no question.
that's okay.
I'm
All
sorry
right.
to be late. I apologize. Can you give me the page number, please, where we are?
Oh, sure, Dorothy. Sure. We are on page 393. We're actually in Parsha Bishalach, looking at the war of the Amalekites against the Jewish people. And we're talking about Yehoshua bin Nun and Joshua, and we're kind of putting together and connecting the dots of Joshua being the Katan, the little one, who is compared to Moshe. Rather, Moshe is the sun and Joshua is the moon. Moshe is considered like the full whatever person, and Joshua is considered the Katan. He's also called a Na'ar, a youth, even though he wasn't like a teenager. He was like a grown man when he left Egypt. So there wasn't anything immature or young about him. It was his approach that he was very, what's the word? When I say simple, I don't mean stupid. I mean, he was very tamim. He was like very straightforward. He was connected to Moshe. He did whatever Moshe told him to do, and he was a complete reflection. He didn't have an agenda. His agenda was to do Hashem's will and to follow what Moshe told him to do. And that's who he is. He's the one who fights against the Amalekites. He's the one who has the power to do the destruction against the energy of Amalek. So this is what the month of Adar, which carries his name because the month of Adar has this Pisces, fish, bin Nun energy, is like, this is the time of Joshua. This is the time of this power. It says, and what did he have? What was his quality? It says that his quality was this simple, and again, I don't mean like immature or unsophisticated, the simple trust, faith, and devotion to carry out his responsibilities. Like, that's not so easy to come by. Most of us we have our own personal agenda. We have our different calculations. We have, in Hebrew, they're all called our cheshbonot, like we're weighing this, we're weighing that, and we know what to do, and and we can get ourselves all like in a whatever spaghetti mess in our heads. And Yehoshua was just straight, and that was able to defeat Amalek. Now, in addition to this, he was called the moon, and the moon is something that is small, but compared to the sun. And this goes back, so it's like, why is the moon small? So does anybody remember the midrash on the creation of what happened with the moon, Etta?
Well, the moon felt that when Hashem made the two luminaries, he made them equal. So the moon felt that he or she should be primary, but instead Hashem, because they want to be primary, they became secondary, and of course the sun is much bigger. That's as much as I remember. Sorry.
Okay, very good. No, you've got that, almost all those details. So I believe just a few slight modifications is the midrash says, because it says here, hold on a second. This is on page 5 of the Chumash, which is Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. This is the beginning of 4th day of creation. It says, God said, let there be luminaries in the firmament of the heaven to separate between the day and the night. And they shall serve as signs and for festivals and for days and years. And they shall serve as luminaries in the firmament of the heaven to shine upon the earth. And it was so. And then it says, and God made 2 great luminaries. And then the next part of the verse says, the greater luminary to dominate the day and the lesser luminary to dominate the night. Okay, so the lesser one in Hebrew is called katon, from the word katan, that it is little. So you can see it here, hamaor hagadol lememshelet hayom v'et hamaor hakaton lememshelet halayla. This is, but you said you were making 2 great luminaries. What happened? So the midrash says is that the moon went to Hashem and said, how can two kings wear one crown? How can two great leaders wear one crown? Like, doesn't somebody have to be more in charge? And God was like, you're right. We're going to make you smaller. And that was the, you complain, that's what you get. So God diminished the moon, but told the moon, I feel bad for you. And so on Rosh Chodesh, when there is a new moon, God, am going to have a sin offering that I'm offering, that will be offered on behalf of me, God, for having diminished you. And your diminishment is a temporary status, because in the future, I will make you bigger and you will regain, and there will be two great luminaries. So there are two things that go on in the Jewish calendar of time that speak to this hope and anticipation that that which is small is going to become big. When is that? Every month on Rosh Chodesh. Every month on Rosh Chodesh, when there's a new moon, it's as if we say, and what are we celebrating? It says, we're celebrating, maybe this is going to be the month where the moon is not going to stay little, but it's going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to actually increase in size until it goes back to its full measure. It says, and who especially celebrates Rosh Chodesh? Women. Why? We're not going to have this conversation about what you think about it, but after the consequences of the Garden of Eden, says God said to women, like, your desire will be for your husband. Basically, you were supposed to be equals, but you messed up in giving him bad advice, eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I'm diminishing you, but it's temporary. It's temporary, because there will be a time then where the woman's full power will come back fully intact. And all of the things that are associated in a society where there is a weaker, smaller, lesser in any way reality now will be restored in the future. It says, who are the people who aren't listened to? Women, children, people who don't have money. You can go through the list of whoever's kind of like on the employees rather than employers, and there's always this hierarchy. It says, but it's meant to be temporary, and it will at some point be fixed. The other piece that's in there is the Jewish people. The Jewish people are called the moon compared to the rest of the world, which is called the sun. And I think we can look around and see that our status in the world is diminished. We are not being treated the way we are meant to be treated. And I don't mean that people are supposed to be, kowtowing to us. I mean, we are supposed to be looked up to, regarded, admired, appreciated, all of those things. Not happening yet throughout the world. There are those who do, but it's not where it's supposed to be. It says the Jewish people are called the moon. So it says this is our understanding that there is this diminishment that is going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. When is it going to get bigger? In the future. And what's the second thing that we do? It says we have what's called Kiddush Levana, the blessing of the moon. Have any of you ever been to a Kiddush Levana? Like it's done on Saturday night after Mariv in the synagogue. You go outside. A friend of mine described it as the men go out and howl at the moon, which is not what they do. They go out and stand you have to be able to see the moon. If it's cloudy, you can't do it. And you see the moon, and there's a whole service that's outside, and it talks about the moon is going to be restored. And this is going to happen when Mashiach comes, and King David, and the moon will be restored, and Israel will be restored, and all of these things are going to be put right. And that's going to happen. Our calendar, which is a lunar calendar, has a moment in time when we touch getting connected to the sun. It's like the solar calendar, the lunar calendar. When do those things meet? Adar, when we have a leap year. And a leap year in Hebrew has a very unusual name. It's called a Shana Me'uberet. Does anyone know what Me'uberet means? Pregnant. It's a pregnant year. What does that mean? It's a pregnant year. It's like, oh, that's weird. It's a pregnant year. When something is pregnant, that means there's something that is in the process of becoming that isn't here yet, but I can see signs of it. Just like you can see a woman who's pregnant is like, I don't see the baby, but I can tell there's something there. And that's what the year is called, is a Shana Me'uberet. It has this extra month of Adar, was like, I don't see it yet. The sun, the moon being restored to the light of the sun. I don't see it yet, but I can see that there's something there. I can have an experience that it's on its way. So what does that mean to know that something's on its way? Now, I know that, even in Judaism, like we tend to not have baby showers while you're pregnant. That's considered kind of like literally counting your chickens before they hatch, and not necessarily appropriate. Don't worry if you had a shower, that's okay. Nobody's doing anything, but we tend to not. However, is a woman excited, is a family excited that a woman is pregnant before they see the baby? It's like, yes, as soon as you find out you are, and after you pass the 3 months or whatever, it's like, I'm having a baby. I'm like so excited. So when do you feel the excitement? It's like, because I know it's coming, God willing, I know it's coming because all the signs are there. No one says, it's nothing. I'll wait. When I give birth, then I'll be excited. Nobody says that unless they're like so freaked out because God forbid they had difficulties with their pregnancy and they don't want to get their hopes up. But the natural reaction is you're excited when you see the signs of it. What does this remind you of? It's like being able to see the signs of something coming and be happy almost as if it is here. This reminds us, if you remember the story of Rabbi Akiva, is that when he was with his students and they started crying because they saw the foxes were running through the Temple Mount and they're crying. And Rabbi Akiva says, why are you crying? Because Rabbi Akiva was laughing. He said, why are you laughing? Akiva, why are you laughing? And he said, well, because there's a prophecy that yes, that the foxes are going to run through the Temple Mount, and that's the bad part. But if the bad part comes true, then I know the good part's going to come true also, and the temple is going to be rebuilt. So I'm happy now, even though we're in the destructive part of it. And his students said, Akiva, you have comforted us. Akiva, you have comforted us. The ability to see what's on the horizon when the sign of it is actually the negative sign. And it's not after the fact you saw the silver lining or you saw how it all worked out. It's that you were able to see it while it was still in the process and while there was something still even negative, while you're still having morning sickness. I remember I had morning sickness. I mean, I actually threw up. I was just so queasy. And I remember the morning I woke up and I wasn't queasy anymore. I was actually worried then that I wasn't pregnant. I was like, I thought I was pregnant, but I feel actually fine. So it's like to have the sign of something negative, to know that that's the sign that something positive is going to happen. When we celebrate Purim, not this month, but next month, our celebration comes after we read the Megillah and we know how the story turned out. That's what we celebrate. It's like, we know we were saved. It's after the Megillah that we are celebrating. It's after the Megillah that we have the Suda, that we have the feast. What do we have this month? This is called Purim Katan. This is the Purim that's the Purim of the moon that has the potential to be big, but is not big yet, of the redemption that is on its way, but it's not here yet, where there might be things that are very negative and difficult and painful and awful that are happening, which were also part of prophecy that could happen. That's what's happening. And so we say, so we know it's coming. We know that the good is coming too. And the ability to be in that space, that headspace, to say, I can be besimcha, I can be happy before I know that the story is going to turn out. Not like, well, when I see it, I'll believe it, and then I'll be happy and I'll celebrate. It's, I know it's going to happen, and so I'm going to be happy now. This takes us back also to the women packing their tambourines before we left Egypt. Why didn't they say, when I have something to celebrate, I'll celebrate? They're like, I know there's going to be something to celebrate, and so I'm packing and getting ready. I'm celebrating now. This is what Purim Katan is. It's like, I'm celebrating before, I'm not even reading the Megillah, but I'm already happy. So we said before that the word for the year that is this leap year is called a Shana Me'uberet. So the word Ibur is what means pregnant. So our sages teach us that there's something that's called the Sod HaIbur, the secret of the pregnancy. What's the secret of the pregnancy? And this isn't a secret like I can't tell you. This is a secret, meaning it's hidden and it's deep and it's difficult to understand. It says, what's the secret of the pregnancy? The Sod HaIbur. So this gives us a gematria. Sod HaIbur has a gematria of 353. 353. So Sod is 70 and Ibur is 283. Sod HaIbur 353 is the same as the word that we were talking about of what we're trying to achieve, which is simcha. The word simcha has a gematria of 353. What's the secret of this pregnant month? What's the secret of having a Purim Katan when the moon, which is usually small, is getting close to being able to reconcile and be back at the full strength with the sun, but not yet. Mashiach isn't here. Amalek hasn't been wiped out yet. But what can I be? I can be besimcha to know that it's going to happen. How is it going to happen? My simcha in and of itself is the antidote to Haman. Simcha is the antidote to Haman and to Amalek. Amalek is characterized by, what's the word? Being a mocker. Like, oh yeah, really? That's Haman. Nothing's good enough is Haman. If you remember Haman's story, it says he was married. He had a wife. He had 10 sons. He was fabulously wealthy. He had friends. He was second in power to the king. And guess what he said? It all means nothing to me if Mordechai the Jew won't bow down to me. And it was because he could not be happy with what he had, all the blessings he had, that he launches into his diabolical scheme to eradicate all the Jewish people. Can you imagine if he went home and said, you know what? My life is so good. I'm so blessed. I have a loving wife. I have my children. I have power. I'm rich. Lots of friends, nice house, 2-car garage, 5-car garage, place in the country. So Mordechai the Jew doesn't bow to me. Like, really, what's it to me? We wouldn't have any story. We wouldn't have any holiday. There would be no Amalekites. But the lack of ability to be happy and to have that happiness come from a place of, I'm so grateful for what I do have, and I'm focusing on what I do have and not what I am lacking. Says that ability is the antidote. That's the simcha that comes to eradicate Amalek. So if we go back to Joshua, what was Joshua? We said before, was he ever jealous of Moshe? No, he was very happy. He's described as he set up his benches and tables and stacked up the books and swept the floor and made the coffee. And he did that. He's just like, I just want to be with Moshe. I just want to be here and just like soak it all in. I'm so happy because I'm the person who is here just to experience the pleasure and joy of the life that I have. And it is through that he actually becomes the successful leader of the Jewish people when they enter into the land of Israel. Fabulously successful. This is what we're carrying. It's like, if we could just be like Yehoshua, again, I have to tell you, I feel so inspired living here right overlooking Jericho to know that like I am literally sitting a few floors up, but right where he was, like just to soak up that energy. So here's something also really interesting. We know that Jericho, that's how you say Jericho in Hebrew, Jericho was the first place that was conquered. And how was it conquered? Does anybody remember the story of how it was conquered? They always say Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho. Not exactly. Patricia, do you remember how it happened?
Didn't they have to blow the horn and circle the walls a certain amount of times?
They circled it once a day for 7 days. And on the seventh day, they circled it 7 times, blew the shofar and like yelled, and the walls came tumbling down. They never even touched anything. And then they went into like attack the rest of the city and they saved Rachav, etc. But they didn't do anything. It was a battle. So it says it. So why was it Jericho? Given that the Jordan River is along the entire what's it called? Eastern side of Israel. And you could have crossed Jordan at any place. Why Jericho? Why Jericho? And why at this place specifically? And Joshua was the one who led that battle. So it's interesting that one of the words for a moon is Yareach, which is connected to Jericho. So it's like, what city was the city that Joshua led the battle against? The city that was the moon city, Jericho. Joshua fought that battle, and through the battle of that moon, he restores the greatness of the Jewish people and all of the other nations, all the other peoples here were very frightened because of the success that Joshua had had. So he fights the battle that is about him. And yet what he does, you can't exactly say that it was like a military conquest. It was really a battle where he was told, march around. Can you imagine me telling us like, the troops would have said like, this is going to work. This doesn't sound like it's going to really work. But it was complete emunah, complete faith and trust. And he did exactly what God told him to do. And then the walls came tumbling down. So it's just fascinating to see like all the pieces lining up for this. And then he continues on to be a great leader. So we have Yehoshua ben Nun, who is this Nun, this fish. What else is a fish? It says, do you know why we eat fish on Shabbos? That we have a custom to eat fish. I mean, usually people have gefilte fish, but there is a reason we eat fish. And there's many reasons, but one of the reasons we eat fish says that fish were the only creatures that were not destroyed in the flood. And it wasn't because they were in the water and the flood was the water. They kept themselves. It says the fish have the great quality of being able, exactly, they don't speak any Lashon Hara, and that they keep their eyes open and they stay quiet. And it says, and they're very modest. They stay below water. It says Yehoshua was modest. He was the person who was the most reliable, modest, humble person, servant of Moshe. Says that this is the quality also that's exactly opposite of Haman. Haman was the opposite. He was egotistical, maniacal, fanatical, all the horrible things you want to say. That's who he was. And what is the antidote? It is the modesty, the humility, the simcha, all of those things. That is who the Jewish people are. That's who Joshua was. He fights the battle, and he's the one who is able to weaken Amalek. He is the one who is able to be successful in that battle when the Jewish people first encounter Amalek when they leave Egypt. And God willing that we can take those same qualities, and during this Purim Katan, of this coming Thursday night, tomorrow night, and Friday, and then Shushan Purim on Shabbos, to be able to take on those same qualities, to say we can be happy that the secret, the sod ha'ibur, the secret of the pregnancy is to be able to be happy with the pregnancy before you see the baby. It's like all I need is like the morning sickness and the stretch marks are actually a sign of something good happening. The pain, the suffering, and everything that we go through is like, can we be happy? And I don't mean that we aren't sad. So I don't want to make it sound like that. It's not that we're like good with the suffering. It's just that we see it and from a Rabbi Akiva perspective and know that it's part of a bigger story and that that story is going to work out just like the Megillah is going to work out, but we don't have to wait. We don't have to wait until next Adar to read the Megillah, see that it's turned out, and then have to then be happy. We can be happy knowing I know it's going to turn out. I can be happy now. I can be besimcha now. When I get to that place, this is then we have something that really adds to our year. So what is the pregnancy of this year? A shana me'uberet, of a pregnant year. It gives the pregnant with possibilities for us, for our own spiritual growth. It's like we have the ability to be able to add something uniquely meaningful to our year, to be able to have this special month and this holiday without anything to do, because it's a holiday of being as opposed to a holiday of doing. It's a holiday of how we are thinking, how we are feeling, how we are processing, how we are responding, but you don't need to make hamantashen for it. You don't need to read the Megillah. You don't need to have a Seudah. And here's something really interesting. You don't have to drink. Everyone knows that there's a mitzvah. Now, obviously, if you can't handle liquor, if it's not safe for you, you absolutely do not have to drink. But one of the customs is to drink until you don't know the difference between blessed is Mordechai and cursed is Haman. Now, blessed is Mordechai, Baruch Mordechai, and Arur, cursed be Haman, have the exact same gematria. So those two things are actually the same. So until you don't know the difference means like, you know, all these lines are blurred, but it takes alcohol to make that happen. What's good, what's bad, it kind of all blurs. It says you don't need to have that on Purim Katan because you're in a place of simcha without the drink. Now, again, I'm not sitting here advocating that somebody has to have a drink to be happy. We're talking about the custom on Purim to have the drink to get to a little bit of a blurry place to realize that in the end, we'll be able to see that everything is good. It's hard to see it while it's unfolding when it feels so painful and so difficult and so horrible and so beyond our comprehension. It's like, how's this ever going to work out? Can you imagine? I mean, we can now imagine the Jews sitting there for almost a full year with a decree of death from Pesach of 1 year till the following Adar, which is from the first month to the 11th month, knowing that on the 13th of Adar, they were going to be annihilated. I don't even know. I mean, we now know, what does that feel like when you know that somebody has that and they have the means to carry it out? 100,000 rockets pointing right in our faces here. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? It's like, okay, live your life, work on your own self, your own spiritual growth. And there's some things that are just not in our hands to do anything about. So but I guess I really just meant that to say is we can imagine what that might have felt like for the Jewish people. And those were all the Jewish people were all there. It's not like there was another group of people someplace else. That was it. That was it. So this time is a very challenging time for us, but I can tell you that people here in Israel are feeling, I mean, it's very much, people are saying instead of hamantashen, they're calling Sinwar ears, who's the head of, who's led the attack. like the Hamas, Haman, it's, you don't have to have any imagination to make that connection. So people are really feeling it's like, okay, thank you, Hashem, for giving us 2 Adars, for intensifying and doubling our months of lessening, weakening, wiping out, God willing, the memories of the existence of people who seek to destroy us. It's like, okay, this Purim is going to be not just a kid's Purim, it is a really adult Purim this year. And Purim Katan is like, okay, let's get ready now. Let's get ready now. And if you see the videos, people are totally like, they're dancing and they're singing and they're celebrating and they're just doing everything to stay happy. And the soldiers, which we've talked about before, the soldiers are saying, be happy. Sadness and gloom and despair is the work of the Yetzer Hara. It's the work that it depletes our energy, it depletes our psyche, and it gives our attackers even more of a win. So people are being careful. The security people are out in full force, but I was not elected to the Knesset. I'm not even in the municipal elections. It's like, that's not my role. My role is to be a Jewish person doing what I can and like what all of us can do, praying, learning Torah, doing acts of kindness, not speaking Lashon Hara, being happy, celebrating, identifying ourselves as Jewish, being proud. That is what we're supposed to do. And that's what the Jewish people did in Shushan as well. They did not, focus on everyone working out and not everybody took self-defense classes. Not that you shouldn't take self-defense class, but that's not what the major focus was. The focus was on Teshuvah, on the spiritual focus, and that was our goal. So that's our goal now too. And we have these 2 months of Adar, and we have Purim Katan coming up. And then God willing, we'll have Purim, and the playbook should just be played out, and we should just see the same results. I did see something, it was a funny meme or something that said, Rhoda, were you trying to say something?
No.
Okay. That there was a meme that said, it's like addressing themselves to Hamas and saying, we're going to have a holiday about this, don't you? So you might as well just give up now, because this is going to be a holiday soon, and then we'll have, they tried to kill us, we won, let's eat. So there's going to be a holiday. So we're just getting ready for it now, sooner rather than later. So God willing, we will have it, and we will have a true feast. I remember that one of the Gulf Wars was over on Purim. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember at Road of Shalom during the Megillah reading, and somebody coming in and announcing and saying, that the war was over. It's like, you know what? Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. So God willing, Hashem should just give us miracle after miracle, and we should keep our eyes open for them. And we should tap into this unique energy of Joshua, which I have to say, never really thought that much about him. Have to say, never really did. I've learned so much more about him on the past few years, and he's a very inspiring person, and that what he was able to lead, what he was able to do, why he was chosen, how he led, what his qualities were, are all things that we can truly emulate. So we should all be a bin nun, be like the fish, and to the modesty. And it says the fish also stick together. They swim together in a school of fish, and they stay together. And that we should be like that in the unity of the Jewish people. There are fish that swim, and when they swim in a school, they take the shape of a bigger fish. Have you ever seen that? I don't know what kind of fish it is, but fascinating.
Sorry, Maya, Marcia, don't, I'm trying to get your phone number here.
So Marcia, are you trying to get my attention, Marcia? Do you want to unmute?
Sorry, the 7 times Joshua went around the city of
Yes.
Jericho.
Yes.
Is that by women who weddings, the bride goes around the groom 7 times, doesn't she?
Yes, she does, but not for the same reason, except they are related, Marcia, and that's because 7 is the number of completion. So it's just like
Oh.
just like we have the Hakafot the 7 times for on Sukkot, that we go around, and then on Shmini Atzeret we go around 7 times. So it's the same
Okay.
idea of the circling for 7 is completion, and then blowing the shofar.
Completion. Okay,
Yeah,
I
so
thought it was 7 blessings. No, for the
that's
bride, 7 blessings.
same reason. Anything with 7 is because that's the number of completion.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. I'm gonna
You're welcome.
I'm gonna try to find Maya's phone number here. I'm sorry to interrupt, but at 2 o'clock at Wash Park on Sundays is the Walk for Israel, for the hostages. They go around the lake.
Oh,
If anybody
wonderful.
be there. So
Oh, great. Thank
it's,
you for telling us.
well, I'm trying to find Maya's phone number to, oh, here it is. Just a
Okay,
second,
Marcia.
I'll send this. I'm
Okay, Marcia,
sorry.
why don't you send that to me separately so we can continue? Is that okay?
Okay, well, I already,
Okay. All right. So what we want to do is to be able to take this energy and focus on how we can be like Joshua, stay focused on who we are and what we're supposed to do as Jewish people in our lives. And that is our strength. I know we were talking about the fish, is that the Jewish people, that we are small, but we see the whole world knows that we're all connected. In fact, I find it a little disconcerting when someone says, I don't know why they're attacking Jews who live in, Spokane, Washington. They don't have anything to do with Israel or whatever. It's like, yes, they do. I was like, I'm sorry. We are all connected. We are like a school of fish, and we are all one thing. And just because you thought you were just like a little fish swimming in your own little pond, newsflash, you're not. You're like part of the school of fish that's the Jewish people. And we are like one huge fish when we are all together. And that is who we are meant to be. And that is the strength of the Jewish people. We will come to a time where it says where the katan will be gadol. They say this at a bris. It says the katan, ze katan yeh gadol. This small one should grow great. It doesn't mean just to grow up. It means to be great, the full expression of who we are meant to be. The light that we are, the or lagoyim, the light unto the nations. The light that we have right now is moonlight. We are meant to have the light that is as bright as the sun. And that's what Mashiach is described as, is our light will be as bright as the sun. God willing, that will happen. The holidays of Purim Katan and regular Purim are all on the full moon. It's when the moon is at its brightest that's when we celebrate the holiday. So God willing, by Purim Katan, if not then, by Purim next month in the second Adar, which is really the first Adar, the main Adar, we should be able to have the holiday and have the full light of the Jewish people. And in the meantime, it is truly each of our own individual opportunities and responsibilities to make sure that our light is shining brightly. And what makes our light shine brightly is an underlying place of simcha. Simcha does not mean that we don't feel sad when something horrible happens. It does not mean that we don't feel pain. It doesn't mean that we aren't frustrated, angry, horrified. It doesn't mean any of that. It means, simcha means, I know the secret. I know the secret of pregnancy. I can see that something is coming, even though it's not here yet. God willing, the pregnancy should be done, and we should see the baby, and it should be, as the Mashiach is described as a baby, of being able to come and have a tzemach, a sprout, to be able to come and grow big and great and bring the Jewish people and all of humanity to all of the light, illumination, truth, and greatness that they deserve to have and deserve to be influenced by. So God willing, we'll have that. So I'll wish you a happy Purim Katan. I'm sure you can be the first on your block to even know what that is and to be able to share that with others. And I guess it wouldn't hurt to have a hamantasha. I'm sure the bakeries are probably making them ready. They started that like right away.
Thank
What was
you.
that? Thank you so much. Have a great, great Shabbos.
Thank you. Shabbat
Thank
shalom.
you too.
Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Ellen,
Bye-bye.
I have two questions.
Sure.
Yasher koach, Helen.
Baruch T.
One, I missed where you said why Jericho. Why was
Jericho,
that person?
Jericho is related to the word Yareach, which means moon, and Joshua was the moon.
Oh,
Joshua was Moshe's moon, and it was like his city.
okay. And the second question, what does the month Shabbat stand for that we don't have Shabbat 2 instead of Adar 1?
So Shvat, I don't know what it means. Like Shvat, that's just the name of it. But we don't have it because what we want is Purim. We want that. We want the energy of Adar. Because otherwise you would have like a Tu B'Shvat too. Like we'd have like two Tu B'Shvats or something.
Right.
But yeah, but it's the Adar, because that's what we really need. That's the precursor to the ultimate redemption. Is once Amalek is wiped out, then we're good to go. As you can just imagine. Can you imagine? I mean, we drive around Israel, we like drove out, it's so gorgeous out, it's so green and so pretty. Like driving around, you would never know what's going on. You would just never know that like in 2 hours I could be on the front line. That's crazy. It's really crazy. It's like, can you imagine the flourishing, what could be done, just even all the money that Israel has to spend on weapons, on building fences and all of these checkpoints and all the things. It's like, what? It's pathetic. And think about what could be done. And still with all of this, Israel is discovering some new thing to, like, how do you have the time to do this? Your hospitals are being inundated with people who are injured with horrible injuries from these explosions, and you're still inventing things to do things to save people's lives. It's mind-boggling, and it would save the world. I did see something that was kind of funny. I guess I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but I guess there was an ad for Christianity or something, like Jesus or something. I'm not sure, like join whatever. Fine. So there's something, so there was that. So there was a meme that said for Christians, join us. Islam, join us. Jews, just leave us alone. just leave. And they'll be fine. So, yes. So, I mean, it's amazing. So, and the construction is still going on, and it's amazing. It is miraculous. But this doesn't happen from a people. Oh, and I'll say, and this is also people who are dealing with trauma, incredible trauma and stress, and all of the related illnesses, setback, everything else related to it, and at the same time, carrying on and making contributions. And it doesn't really make any sense. It's miraculous. It really is miraculous. It's miraculously horrible, and it's miraculously wonderful at the same time. I don't understand it. I don't know. So in a way, it's so weird that also, for me, gives me the faith and trust, like more like Rabbi Akiva. It's like, this is so weird that you can tell that it's something going on that is coming from a totally different place, because it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense. So it's so weird. Think about like how a pregnant body looks. If you had never seen a pregnant woman and you saw somebody walking down the street looking like that, you'd be like, well, that's weird. What's that? You know that they've shown that physiologically a pregnant woman should not be able to stand up. Her center of gravity, she should be like pitched forward on her face. But the way the body works is the ligaments loosen and the thighs spread out, whatever allows you to maintain your balance. When I see pictures of myself when I was pregnant, I'm like, I looked like that? I can't believe that. So it looks really weird. And so when something is really weird, then you know that something is going on. This is not normal. There's nothing about this that meets any definition of normal. It's extraordinary. And the Jewish people are extraordinary. And our history is extraordinary. It's mind-boggling. I went to a, anyone who wants to go, you're welcome to. I went to a speech last night, presentation about the Jewish history of Gaza. It was just fascinating. All the references in Torah to Gaza, to Tanakh, people you remember have heard of, Samson and Delilah, the Philistines in Gaza. So it's written down, and there are maps, and there are shuls, and there's a huge mosaic, huge shuls. Even one of the mosques that was in Gaza had a stone that had a menorah on it. They don't know if it had been a synagogue before and they turned it into a mosque, or if they had taken stone from a previous synagogue and used it in the building of the mosque. And even the names, they have, like, there's a place close by here that's called Nebi Musa. Well, Nebi Musa is, Nebi is Navi, which is prophet, and Musa is Moses. So it's called the prophet Moses, and it's like close to here because they think that's where he was buried. Okay, so they want to say that, but it's not like they don't think he existed. And I even just read, this was fascinating, the attack was called the flood on Al-Quds, the Al-Quds flood. So Al-Quds says, Quds is Arabic from Kodesh, the Mikdash, the Beit HaMikdash. They know that the Temple Mount had the temple on it. They know it, they've named it. They have any think it's just like a total coincidence that where Muhammad had his dream that he flew to heaven on his horse, just out of all the hills in the entire Middle East, just happened to be on the Temple Mount? I think that's pretty highly unlikely. They know exactly what it is, which is why they're trying to destroy the evidence. They take it and they take it off in truckloads, which is why you have the Temple Mount sifting project, because we went and got all the stuff they tried to throw out and we sift through it and find all of our stuff. So it's pretty hard to get rid of things, even if you think you are. It's like a criminal trying to get rid of evidence. Doesn't really work so well. So it's just so strange. It's mind-boggling. So we're in a combination of like, what are we doing for Purim and for Pesach and this, and then getting a notice from the neighborhood saying, don't be alarmed, the security people are doing a drill in our neighborhood, so they'll be like around like with, their guns and uniforms and running around, and don't worry, there's nothing really happening. I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Thank you for cheering us up, Ellen.
Thank
We
you.
really need.
Thank
There's really
You
only
always find
there's only one option here, and
yeah.
some of it is, it would be funny if it wasn't so horrible. It would be
Right.
funny, but it's not funny, but it's really
Extraordinary.
it's something else. It's something else. So here we are. We thought we were just ordinary people. You thought you were just some ordinary person, just living your life, doing your thing, having your family, your job, and your community. Not. We are a unique people, and the world will never let you forget it. Right now, it's on the negative side. It will be on the positive side, but you never let you forget it. So you are a gift to humanity.
Thank you for
We all-
sharing.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
ladies. Have a
And
wonderful,
shalom.
wonderful Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
Yes, you too.
Take
We love
care.
you.
Thank you.
תשמרי
Bye-bye.
תשמרו על עצמכם. Take
Hi,
care.
Trudy.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Peace.
you. Bye, guys. Ladies, not guys.